So although we are only halfway through 2023, I think it's safe to say that the biggest game of the year has probably already released with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Like, yeah, Spider-Man 2 is going to be dope as hell. Starfield has a lot of potential, but I feel like Tears of the Kingdom was the big title for 2023 and a big title for the Nintendo Switch. And while there's over 10 million people playing the game right now, there is sort of a question that you have to ask yourself when it comes to Nintendo, and well, that question is, what's next? You know, and I know people are like, well, why can't you just enjoy the game now? Why can't you, people are starting to get into it, this, that, and the other, and that's fine. This has nothing to do with Tears of the Kingdom as a game or anything like that. It more so has to do with how the video game industry works. It's always a what's next sort of situation. People will play a game and beat the game and then wonder, all right, what's next on my docket, especially when you look at the business side of things. Now, we know a couple things about Nintendo on this channel. The first and foremost thing being, I'm not a Nintendo YouTuber. Don't you dare say that in the comments section. It riles me up. But more importantly, what is Nintendo doing in the second half of 2023 and kind of beyond with this system? Because it definitely feels like we're at a bit of a crossroads. Uncle Charles is waiting for us at the crossroads. Crossroads, you won't be lonely. But we have to start to look at the future of the system, and I want to talk about the things that we know and then kind of the unknown stuff. Now, obviously, we're in the tail end of May. We're starting to get video game presentations for other companies that are happening, well, in the month of June. Actually, Sony's presentation is at the end of May. It's happening next week at the time of the filming of this video. And then in the month of June, we of course have Xbox's presentation. But there hasn't been any sort of mention of a Nintendo Direct. Now, of course, Nintendo Directs seemingly seem to pop up out of nowhere. It's usually a couple days before the event is when we get the event notification. Sometimes it's a little bit earlier when we're talking about the June Direct, as there are video game presentations somewhat happening. You know, E3 used to be a thing. Summer Games Fest is still the thing now that's kind of trying to take the place of E3. But I find it odd that, we haven't heard anything about a Nintendo Direct, and more importantly, the fact that people are saying, industry insiders who have gotten things accurately predicted before, that there's actually, well, not going to be a June Nintendo Direct. They're kind of going to ride the high of The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and sort of use that to sort of push whatever momentum we have towards the end of 2023. And then we're just kind of left to wonder, well, what's going on in the second half of the year? Now, obviously, when COVID hit and things were very different, we didn't really get any sort of traditional Nintendo stuff. We ended up getting the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection get announced in September and then released like 6 weeks later. And so people are thinking, well, maybe there's something like that. But I would find it odd that if we went through the month of June and had no Nintendo Direct presentation, and many people are saying that that's what is indeed going to be the case. Do you want to talk about new games so close to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom's release? I don't think it makes a difference. You've already sold over 10 million copies of this game, probably over 12 million copies now since you last updated it. Like, you've made your money back. You were selling those at $70 a pop. I think you could talk about the future of what you're doing without really cannibalizing the present of what you're doing. So is there going to be a Nintendo Direct in June that would sort of, quell all of our questions with this system? I don't really know. You have to look at what games are, of course, announced for the Nintendo Switch from Nintendo themselves, and, well, now we're down to 2 games. We got 2 games left. We have Pikmin 4, which, of course, comes out in July, and Metroid Prime 4, which, okay. Pikmin 4 is, of course, going to be sort of a supplemental game. I don't think it's going to light the game world on fire. Maybe 2-3 million copies sold for the die-hard Pikmin fans. It's just another game for Nintendo to put out there. People love Pikmin, some of them. Miyamoto loves Pikmin. That's probably why it ends up getting released. RGT, not a huge fan of Pikmin, so I will be passing up on this game. But that's the only game we know that has a release date. And actually, it's the only game we know anything about beyond Metroid Prime 4. Now, is Metroid Prime 4 going to be a 2023 game? Could it be a holiday game? I mean, maybe. Like, there is the chance of it. You know, it could be a Metroid Dread situation where they show off something in June and then it comes out in October. I would think they would want a little bit more build up with this game, as it is a game that's been in development hell for like 6 years plus now. There's lots of questions about this game as well. Like, what's going on with it, really? Like, is there going to be, you know, multiplayer? Can we look at the game? Can we see the game in action? Because obviously Retro Studios is a company that can really get a lot out of the Nintendo Switch, like we've seen with Metroid Prime Remastered. That game is freaking gorgeous, and I'm very interested to see how Metroid Prime 4 sort of follows that up. But that's it. Those are the two games that we know about, and it's like, well, what's going on here? Like, are there games coming out in the second half of the year, or are we going to do a Wii U sort of thing where we just ride one game as long as we can with The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? Don't get me wrong. Tears of the Kingdom has tons of legs left in it. This game will continue to sell. This game will continue to be popular. There probably will be DLC announced for it at some point in time as well to keep this game sustainable. But I don't feel like it's a good idea to just sort of have this one big game and then that's it until whatever the next thing is, because we saw something like that with the Nintendo Wii. Skyward Sword was Nintendo Wii's last big Nintendo game. Of course, Nintendo did release some other stuff after Skyward Sword, but nothing on a sort of AAA level that you would consider a big AAA game. And then they waited until the Wii U came out. And then people just kind of forgot about the company because the Wii U came out, it was this, that, or the other. There was all these problems. You got to remember something here, kids. The Nintendo Switch, if we're considering it a hybrid system, that means there is a home console component with this. This is the longest running Nintendo home console without the announcement of a successor on the horizon. Yes, you know, people made NES games for a very long time, Super Nintendo games for a very long time. I'm talking about with no successor on the horizon. Like, look at the timeline of stuff here. 85 was the NES, 91 was the Super Nintendo, 96 was the N64, so on and so forth. This is a very long time in terms of video games, in terms of not having any sort of successor on the horizon, especially for Nintendo. And I guess that brings us to one of our final points here, is the successor system. Because you have to imagine at some point in time we're going to learn about this, unless Nintendo is just absolutely stupid and they're like, we're going to ride this till the wheels fall off with no backup plan, because that would be a horrible idea, because he tried that with the Wii. It didn't work out too well. You would have to imagine that at some point in time we're going to learn about this new Nintendo system. Would you want to talk about this new Nintendo system, say potentially September, October of 2023 to release in 2024 without having any games alongside of the Nintendo Switch, and then sort of cannibalizing whatever potential sales you could have left for the Switch? Because are people going to want to buy a Switch during the holiday season if this new system is coming up on the horizon? There's so many questions with whatever this new system is going to be. Is it going to be a hybrid system? Is it going to use the same cartridge-based medium that the Nintendo Switch has right now? We all assume that that's what we would expect it to be. From a logistics standpoint, that's what makes the most sense to us, but this is Nintendo. They always want new and innovative ways to play your video games, and a traditional successor isn't new, isn't different. There's nothing different about that. Why do they keep saying that? Why do they keep wanting to rock the boat? Is the system going to have backwards compatibility? There are some questions around that as well. How would that look for Tears of the Kingdom as well? You have this new system come out and you can't play your old Switch games on it to sort of tide you over. And that's a lot of assumptions. That's kind of going under the assumption that this is going to be a spring 2024 release for a new system. And I used to think that was a foregone conclusion, but now I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. You know, obviously Nintendo talks out one of their sides of their mouth and believes in the other side of their mouth. We've seen it time and time again with things like the new Nintendo 3DS. Oh, it doesn't exist. And then the next day, of course, it does exist and it gets announced and then it comes out and you can pre-order the system. So there is that sort of chance, but you got to wonder what's next. You know, what's going on in the second half of 2023 that's going to keep Nintendo Switch owners engaged from a first party perspective? And I find that mystery thrilling. You know, I get it. Like, sometimes we have this anticipation given to us by these companies and this, that, and the other. And then it feels like we know what's going to come out for the rest of the year. And then, you know, it has that comfort. It has that, you know, that comfort feeling to it, because you know what's going to happen. You know what to look out for. You know what to expect. But when there is that mystery, I feel like things get a lot more interesting, because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's coming up on the horizon. We overhype these things sometimes and, you know, assume that there's going to be big stuff happening, this, that, and the other. But there is that certain level of mystery and that clouded judgment that it's like, well, we don't really know what's going on with this. We don't know what's happening in the second half of the year. We don't even know if there's going to be a Nintendo Direct in a couple of weeks. Because if there is a Nintendo Direct in a couple of weeks and Nintendo comes out guns blazing, then you have to question, well, where's the Switch 2? Is there going to be a Switch 2 anytime soon? If they're planning all these games for the Switch as we have it now, could the new system be unveiled at the new Direct? I don't think it would be so close to Tears of the Kingdom, because that makes no sense. But is there a Direct? Like, so many questions. So many questions, and I feel like it's going to be very fun, very exciting. And even if Nintendo just shits the bed and like they don't do anything, at least Sony and Microsoft seem to be doing some stuff, so we could always talk about that on the channel. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think is next for Nintendo. Obviously, Tears of the Kingdom, it's going to continue to sell well. It's going to continue to do well. People love the game, but you always got to look at what's next. You always have to look at what's on the future, because if you're not looking towards the future, then you're kind of looking towards the past, and you don't live there anymore. That's not what's paying your bills. It's all about the future. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, share, hit the bell notification as well. I almost lost my voice there. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.